Tonight we have two big guests with us on the crew. We have James Henry and Mike Caref. Right now we're talking about winning the strongest and best contract for the city letter carrier.
Letter carriers say they've been working for more than 500 days without a contract, and today they made their voices heard on the streets of downtown.
USPS failed to protect Eugene Gates and others.
Fired up! Can't take it no more!
Mail carrier robbed at gunpoint.
Police are targeting these mail carriers for their universal keys.
Nearly 1,200 reported attacks and other assaults on postal workers just last year alone.
Next Generation Carriers and guests are individual union members speaking in a personal capacity, and they do not represent the views of the NALC, the United States Postal Service, or any other entity that is spoken on this program. If you enjoy our podcast, please subscribe to our monthly email newsletter. Go to nextgenerationcarriers.com/email. Fill in your name and email, click subscribe. Also, if you would like to get in contact with Next Generation Carriers podcast, send us an email at nextgenerationcarriers@gmail.com.
At the NALC, we did have the Fight Like Hell rally, which was good, but it was very last minute. So tonight, we're trying to push for a national day of action, 2 days of action. The first one would be a rally in Washington, D.C. in February 16th on President's Day. Obviously, not everyone can attend that, and so that's the 16th. And then a statewide 50-city, 50-state rally that will take place the week after on a Sunday, which would be February 22nd. In order to do that, we need people we do need President Renfro to push this, to make it actually happen. He can free up the resources and we can start organizing for it. The contract kickoff is less than 6 months away from this date. We're in October. So we're trying to get this pushed. Fortunately, James Henry, Mike Caref, two of our leaders in our union, are here with us to discuss that. So we did also, by we, I mean James Capone here, my co-host. He did reach out to Brian Renfro to see what the situation is. Is National organizing a day of action? So I'll turn it over to Capone because he did get a response from Brian Renfro.
So first, I just wanted to congratulate Jerry Ugon on a happy retirement. He's an RAA of our region, and Jerry was a huge help for me when I started. So I just want to say cheers on the retirement, Jerry. So Brian, I did email him about this. He got a statement on it. He sent me a decently worded statement, but here are some key points from it. He said that we are going to have multiple rallies leading up to the opening of bargaining. There will be rallies in a lot more than 50 cities. He said we have to be sure we plan action with the right cadence. This will include rallies, direct media engagement, physical, and digital branding. So he has said that they are planning this and they are pushing for it and really planning on making it big.
Awesome. All right. Another thing too, a couple of more things we do want to plug for this meeting is, so obviously we're not going to decide on everything over a podcast, even though it's a great podcast. So there has been a February rally working group. We work on WhatsApp. A lot of the people who will be speaking have been working with me and a few others to get this pushed, because it's going to take a lot of buy-in from a lot of presidents, executive board members, activists who are here, and other people who are well known in the union. So we want people to join. So we will be having a working group meeting. If you like this idea of what we're going to talk about and you want to get involved, reach us a message, send us an email to the Next Generation Carriers podcast email. We'll get in touch with you. We'll set it up because we're going to be meeting on next Thursday, I believe. I should have written this down, but next Thursday at 9 o'clock, because we work over 4 time zones. So it'll be over the 23rd is when we're going to meet again. So if you want to help out, come by 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have people in Seattle, people in Minnesota, people all over the country doing this, and we're trying to make it a reality. Also, another thing too worth plugging, I know a lot of us have heard about it, but there was a shooting in Washington State. There is a GoFundMe. His name is Anthony Santoro. An Amazon driver almost killed him. He's in the hospital. It's you can read the story. It's not good, but he's out of, I think he's out of ICU. If anyone knows the story, we can probably talk about that more. But there is a GoFundMe, so look him up. We will post it on our Facebook page at Next Generation Carriers Podcast if people want to donate. because it's going to be a long road to recovery for him. And we're thinking of Brother Anthony today. So, all right. Anyway, moving on to the next thing we have here too is the roundtable. We got a bit of a discussion about this. I'm going to say, Mike, I think you were in Boston and you and Corey were talking about this. This is when it first came out. You and Paul Belanger and us were there. What do you think about the DC rally? I know you want to do a march, which I think is a good idea too, but what do you envision for this rally? What do you think? Anything about it?
So you're asking me, right? Because there's a lot of
Yes.
mics out there in the world.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I don't know the format here.
That's all right.
It's, so it's just us. There's like 3 of us, 4 or 5 of us.
There'll be
Whatever.
4 of us. Pretend the audience isn't here, but then we'll get to that later. So yeah.
All I see is you. I don't know how this works.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Anyway,
All right.
don't worry about me. The I think we and I don't know how you. So normally you look to the leadership of the union, the president or maybe the executive council or whatever to kind of lead. But I think that because the president has the responsibility over collective bargaining, and because the president failed us so poorly, so badly last time, and I think that we definitely don't want to leave it up to the president to plan how we're gonna do it this time. And if we got messaging from the president that he's going to participate in anything that we organize, that the members of the union want to organize, I think that's great. And I think that he should definitely be there as our representative, as our president. But make no mistake about it, last round of contract negotiation, both sides failed us. Both sides came to an agreement on a contract that the members of this union rejected, and they implemented those terms anyway. And those terms were wholly insufficient. They did not solve our problems, not only the wage problems, but everything about the contract that doesn't work: the grievance process, the hiring process, retention, mandatory overtime, the terms, the way the thing works, the uniform program. None of that works. And so everyone has their issues and things that they want to see in the new contract. We have all these bargaining committees, and then it's like, okay, how are we actually going to accomplish the things we want to accomplish in the next contract? And there's only a couple ways you can do it. There's only 3 that I know of, and this is what we were talking about in Boston at the roundtable. The only 3 ways are: you have a willing partner in the Postal Service that you can negotiate with. In other words, both sides recognize that there's a problem, and there certainly should be a problem on the Postal Service side. Their grievance process is broken, their hiring process is broken, their retention is horrible. The service to the public is in danger based on a lot of the staffing issues that they have. And so you would hope and think, except we know the Postal Service, but you would hope that they would engage with us and we can collectively bargain over a contract. The next step is you go to arbitration and interest arbitration. And the problem is that last time our president refused to take us to interest arbitration. We never really got an answer on that. The people went out on strike in 1970 and fought for the right to have just that, the right for us to take our case in front of a neutral arbitration panel, and for that arbitration panel to make a determination on our contract based on the standard that was put into the law in 1970, pay and benefits comparable to those in the private sector of the economy of the United States. And the president last time never took us to arbitration. And there's no guarantee that the president will take us to arbitration this time and make those arguments in front of a neutral arbitration panel. And the third option is go out on strike. And as soon as you guys want to go on a strike, just let me know. I'll be with you guys. But I just don't think I don't think that that's at the forefront right now. I don't think that's imminently about to happen. And so if we want to be successful and not just talk a good game, we have to actually do something to try to change that dynamic and get us some leverage in the process. And so to me, the first step is to shame both sides on what they did last time. And to me, that's a march in Washington, D.C., where contract negotiations are going to begin in February. And it happens to be a 1.3-mile trek from the NELC building to USPS headquarters in LaFlante Plaza. And I think any letter carrier worth their salt can march 1.3 miles. And we can get, everyone can bring their signs, everyone can bring their issues, their demands, the things they want to see out of a contract. And we have the holiday weekend, and so people can travel. The branches have time where they can not only endorse the march, but put their funds to it, send people, get buses, send people on planes, whatever, right? We have time to make this an all NELC march. And then, the people that want to get on board with it should get on board with it. But the people that, if the leadership of the union right now, the president or whoever doesn't want to attend that march, that's on them. I think that that's something that we need to do in order to get leverage. And then I don't know if I'll have another chance to talk. So let me just throw this out right here. I heard on Brother Shrum's podcast, he was doing a recap of the Region 6 talk that President Renfro gave. And he said that February the 25th would be day one of contract negotiations, which I believe is a Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken.
Might be
and
a
so,
Wednesday, but yeah.
Is it a Wednesday?
I think because Monday's the 22nd, I think. But anyway. Yep.
I see Shrum in the comments. He said, "Hey, that's me." The 25th is a Wednesday. You are 100% correct, brother.
Yep.
Good call. So on the 25th, what I think we should do is, I think every letter carrier should have a rally in front of their post office and pass out some type of flyer or something to the public. We got to get the public on our side. That's the resolutions that passed in the convention in 2024. We want to activate the membership. We want to get the public on our side. And we want to put public pressure on the Postal Service to negotiate in good faith. And so you start with that. And on day one of the negotiations, you say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Citizen of America, your public post office is in danger here because the Postal Service does not want to engage in collective bargaining in good faith with its union and its workers, the National Association of Letter Carriers, and your letter carrier who you know in this community. And a lot of our post offices are in downtown areas. A lot of our post offices are along major thoroughfares or whatever. That's going to get so much media attention, and it's going to really, galvanize, I think, the public on our side when we tell them that the issues that we have, the working conditions, the pay, the starting pay, the mandatory overtime, let's talk about that with the public and try to get some leverage to force the Postal Service to begin negotiating on day one. This ain't, the 90-day negotiating period is in the law. And we expect the Postal Service to comply with the law and negotiate with us in good faith all 90 of those days. And I don't want to waste a single day. We got tons of problems, tons of challenges. Let's start on day one and day two and day three and day four. And let's start by getting the public on our side and activating our membership. In the same way we said, hey, have a vote no rally, have a sign, have a picture, get together and say, hey, we're voting no on the tentative agreement, which we were kind of doing last year. Let's do the same thing for the first day of contract negotiations. Let's get all the carriers out in front of the post office before their tour so that we can try to get the public on our side. So I think we do those two things. And I guess you guys want to plan rallies in 50 states around the country. Nothing wrong with that either. The more we do, the better. But that would be my.
So Mike, Chris got so excited getting into this, he didn't do the introductions. So, who are you and where are you from? And
see, that's what I said. What's the setup here, man? I don't know.
I know.
Chris is so excited. He's like a kid on Christmas. You know?
This is every day of the Next Generation Carrier podcast is a day of Christmas right now.
I just want to point out the work Chris has done.
I'm the National Business Agent, Region 3. My name is Mike. It says it right here, Mike Caref. I'm running for president of the union. Nice Caref for president.
Are you on a boat? Because your camera keeps going up and down. I don't know.
Why it does that,
are you at sea right now? Because it's
what happens is I get too animated and I move, and then the camera tries to adjust to me, and I'm like, just stay still.
Okay.
I did verify with Mike, he's not in one of those old-timey phone booths that they used to have when people would sit in them in their houses.
This is how the old apartments look in the city of Chicago, man. I don't have no fancy backdrop like my brother James has over there.
So we were just going to introduce him. We also have on the podcast, Mr. Henry. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. For those of you that don't know, I am James Henry. I currently serve as the NLC National Vice President, and I am running also for the 2026 presidential position. So I am here to participate and lend my thoughts into where we are going and headed and some of the things that we should do as well. I am really honored to be on here with you guys. You're doing some fine work.
All right. Thank you.
So the same
And I'll
question from
introduce
Mike
James
to you.
Capone, president of Local 764, who's also a great co-host. And
Too
that's
late
it.
now, man. Too late.
All right, there
He
we
steals it from me
go.
every single time. I don't even get to say my own introduction anymore.
Now I have to always interrupt you when you do that. All right, great. And John Murphy. John lives in Florida. He's a Sagittarius, and he is originally
Like
from
long
Watertown,
walk from the
Massachusetts.
beach.
That's it. All right, there. See, everyone happy now. There we go. Great. We have some great guests
Yeah.
coming up too. So James Henry, question for you. Same thing. February rallies. Do you think it's the right approach? Do we need to get in a tradition of doing rallies, kickoff rallies? What do you think?
I think anything that's going to be effective, we should do. And that means bringing to bear all of our weight as the union, making sure that we have a organized execution from the very beginning. As you was indicating earlier, that we have a situation where it was at the last moment, saying, okay, let's impromptu. And I'm not poo-pooing doing something at the last moment. Maybe the circumstances may have called for it. And this goes to what I'm talking about. Everything should be on the table. But as it relates to moving forward with rallies, is it something that we should incorporate into our toolbox on a regular basis? I would say yes. One of the things that I also believe is that you practice the way you play. If we want to be effective, if we want to be successful in um, gaining exposure and gaining the attention of the Postal Service, because in actuality, it is a two-part. It's not just the customers that we want to win on our side. That's part of it as well. That's important for them to be able to uh, lend their support and voice their opinions as it relates to us moving forward as an organization retaining the Postal Service, because I think my man John has stated earlier, if you have letter carriers consistently making only $22 an hour, you may not have quality employees that's coming on board. And if you don't have quality employees, you're going to have a situation where the service is eroded. If the service is eroded, then you have a public sector that will be voicing their dissatisfaction with, why am I getting my mail maybe 10 days versus the 1, 2, or 3 days that first class used to be. And that's simply because they can't retain employees. Because they can retain employees because they don't have a living wage. So practicing what we preach, being that we need to make sure that our ducks are lined up. We don't need to be winking in the dark, or as that old adage go, shooting in the dark. I heard Mike talk about having letter carriers in front of every post office. And in theory, that sounds pretty good. And that's not something, again, that should be dismissed. But I have a more grander view than that. To be able to bring to bear the entire weight of this union. And that means that we have to be visible. That means that, not because if you have an office that has, say, approximately, say you have some offices that may only have two city carriers in it. You may have offices that have hundreds of letter carriers in it. Being able to centralize them and, one, let the letter carriers know that they're not out there on their own, and to generate that energy that's necessary to display to the public the righteous indignation that we have for not having a living wage. That comes with being assembled together, I think, in a more effective way when it is possible to have the larger numbers. That will then also generate the media to come out and be able to see everything that we are doing. And then when the media is out there and they're broadcasting what we're doing, the Postal Service sees what we're doing. And they can't get away with some of the things that they've gotten away with in the past behind closed doors, because they'll be exposed in regards to saying in those rallies, this is what we're asking for. This is not unreasonable. It is not unreasonable to expect that our letter carriers are being paid more than that of a fast food worker. It's not unreasonable to expect to come to work and spend more time doing our job than trying to keep our job. It is not unreasonable to expect to have a, a decent health plan and that we're not being basically our pockets have been raided to be able to keep up with. You know, the reality of it is here is that we have to be effective, and to be effective, we have to be visible. And to be visible, then we're able to get our message out. And so I think it should be done on a grander scale. I do believe that both uh, not only the rank and file, but the leadership has to lead by example as well. I don't think it should be discretionary or optional. You know, you want to know what somebody really believe in and what their priorities are. Look at what they spend their time doing. That's how you determine if somebody is really about what they say that they're about. Where are they spending their time? And if you have your leadership out there, then to some degree, at least in a large degree, perhaps, you would also incentivize those local leaders to come. If you have the national leadership, you have the local leaders to come in, and you have the letter carriers that are willing to come out there as well, even for no other reason than so that they can have direct interaction with their leaders to say, hey, these are the things that is on our mind. These are the things that's on our hearts that we need to convey to you, that you need to convey to an arbitrator. You guys have heard me say before that it is not the system that's the problem, but the application of the system. Different scenario, but the concept is the same. How we apply this approach is going to make the difference, and it's not just going through the motions. Like I said, with all due respect, if you can have someone in front of every post office. Do you think the local media is going to be out at every post office? No. They'll be out where there are numbers at. And so we need to be able to organize our letter carriers. And that starts by one, generating a plan, two, by indicating that we are going to be there with them, and that we're going to, like I said, not only fight for them, but that we're going to fight with them. That is essential, because not to do that and not to have everyone involved, and I'm talking about involved in the execution of the rallies, then it's like having a cake without flour. You can have the butter, the sugar, and the flavor all you want, but the substance is the flour. That's what makes the cake rise. What makes the rally rise is effectiveness, effectiveness, effectiveness. And so that's just the tip of the iceberg that I was speaking of. I am wholly on board with making sure that we have these rallies, that we are able to display our energy, because there are going to be some individuals that are out there that make minimum wage, and they say, "Well, hey, look, how is it that I'm going to be sympathetic for someone, other industries or whatever, be sympathetic for letter carriers that are making either $22 an hour all the way up to maybe some with overtime $100,000 a year." Well, those rallies not only pressing the issues with regards to the the pay, which is, I think, is paramount, placing the emphasis on the pay, but also placing the emphasis on the work environment, being able to not only have these rallies, but have an effective message when we have these rallies, not just out there just for a photo op. We need to be out there making a difference. And that is the thing, because a lot of times when you have these rallies, I think it was aptly stated earlier, opposed to it being a rally, meaning assembling and generating the group to move forward, it becomes more kind of like a pep rally, a feel good. It's much more profound than that to me.
Excellent. Both great points. I want to piggyback on both of these too. I mean, the thing is, in order, I'm in favor of having the big, like Massachusetts, right? It's land wise not big, but Boston's on the far right on the ocean right there, and then we go back Western Mass. What if we had the time and the resources which should be planned? We could have a bus pick people. We could charter buses, like Mike was saying, charter buses. Pittsfield, Mass is on the border of New York. It goes to Springfield, Worcester. It goes and it picks people up along the way, brings them to Boston. Boston, when we did our Boston rally, we had the local news. We had Congressman Stephen Lynch. He's the one of the writers of HR 70, anti-privatization. He spoke at our rally. We did the work, Masters BFN. Mostly, we did all the work of doing it. When and not, I don't mean to slam our NBA at the time, but I don't think a lot of the NBAs know how to organize a rally. I don't think there's a tradition of it in our union. They don't know. I think the 1970s and that 80s. I think there was a tradition of organizing good rallies. I think that has been lost over the 50 years because the approach was generally from the office was kind of go wherever you want and maybe the local media will pick it up. So, the one group, we did the Boston one, we had one of the biggest rallies in the country, not tooting a horn, but it was only 500 people, which it's the highest we got, but we're a million, anyway. We had a good, that was good. And then they had a standout of maybe 20 people, and that did not get any turnout, no media press, no nothing. That 20 people would have been better served coming to the one in Boston to organizing it. And that's where the planning comes together. Because like I said, you do need to make a plan. I will plug once again, February 23rd. If you want to work on that plan, we got a checklist. I think there's some great ideas about it too. And yeah, because
Hey, Chris.
go right ahead.
Let me say this here. Some of these things, I've heard, you heard me say before, perhaps on others, that there's nothing really new under the sun. But I think some of our resources about being effective to what you're saying here is that we could be in a situation where, like you said, the NBA officers or whoever or local may not be really adept at training or knowing how to organize. I think national would be good and better served in bringing individuals together or going out to the NBA offices and training individuals how to organize so that is something that would make it effective, like you're saying about bringing them together. Because think about back in the 50s and the 60s during the civil rights era, when you had those sit-ins at these different places throughout the South, what would they do? They would teach the individuals how to respond to violence. They would teach them how to go out and do the marches that they were doing. Different scenario, but the concept is the same.
We can almost like an education, like a class, and
right
for long-term rallies, like we do advocacy class or something. Go out to the regions, teach them, and now we can regularly have rallies.
Right, because what would happen during the education period we I haven't seen it really implemented as much as we've talked about it. You would hear about train the trainer, right? I think it's different scenario, but the concept is still the same. Is that we can utilize some of the NLC resources, the money to train our individuals how to organize so that it can be effective. That is something that I think should be given some consideration as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike's thoughts on training the trainers or anything else on the 15th? Because, like I said, the busing and getting people down there, I think is a great idea.
So the 15th is President's Day?
I'm sorry, the 16th, Monday the 16th. That was it. So there was a discussion between the 15th and but 16th, we feel, a lot of us in the working group, that, like I said, this is only a proposal. This is all, but we're thinking that Monday, all the politicians are going to be there because we donate to the LCPF. I think it's time the national puts pressure on the politicians who take money from us, our LCPF. They come down to the rallies, or if they're in those cities, they come down and support. I think it's a lot of time. We start calling on the LCPF. We get money. Now it's time to help us out. We're trying to fight for a good contract. you should be there too. So I think that's what that was the idea of Monday, doing it on that day.
Yeah, I'm with that. I think that is the first step is to get as many branches in the country to endorse that and to make commitments. Are you going to send people? All the branches have funds, so it's like, okay, are we going to spend a certain amount of funds to send people? We're going to get together to make some signs to get up. We're going to, whatever we don't need to micromanage the thing, but basically, we probably need a template or something so that people can start introducing these motions and resolutions in their branch meetings and see how many branches we can get to support this.
Yeah,
I,
absolutely.
I think we could get a lot, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
it sounds almost like you guys have Mike. You're coming more from about a bottom up situation of build it from the branches up to have the rallies, whereas James is coming from national directing down to teach the regions how to do it. And
Well, I don't know if James is trying to say that that's going to happen right now, but maybe when we have some new leadership over there at 100 Indiana Avenue Northwest. But in the moment we're in right now,
mm,
I don't need anyone coming into my regional office or anyone telling us how to organize rallies and marches. I don't think that the national leadership has that experience right now. If we're going to make this happen, we're going to have to make it happen. And
And
you know,
this,
we're the only ones that said that the contract was insufficient last time. Like if you leave it up to President Renfro, he thought that he did a great job and he delivered for us. But we're the ones that said he didn't deliver. And so if that process didn't work last time and we don't want the same results, let's not do the same thing. And one of those things is we're definitely not trying to leave it up to him being President Renfro to plan how we're going to mobilize the membership and get the public on our side and where we're going to rally at. And, those are decisions we should be making and we should be organizing, with all of the branches. There's 1,500 branches. You guys want to send them a letter? We'll be at the rap session in Cleveland. We can pass something out to all the branches, the people, the representatives that are there, asking them to bring it up at their branch meetings. There's a lot of ways to do organizing if we're, once we make the decision we're going to do this on February the 16th, then let's start organizing for it. And I like your idea, Chris, about getting the politicians there, getting other unions to come out and show support, that kind of thing, for sure.
Yeah,
I want to jump in real quick. It's October 14th. February seems kind of a long way away, but we also got to remember it's the winter month. So we're going to be working later. A lot of branches will not be active in the month of December for union meetings. So if you're listening, if you're a branch president, please bring this up at a union meeting. If you're rank and file, please bring this up at a union meeting and also talk about it in your office. Because as Henry and Caref are talking about, the members need to own this. It needs to be from the membership. And most likely you'll need to bring a motion to your branch meeting to endorse a call, fair contract now, day of action. So you're looking at October union meeting and November union meeting because you do not want to be organizing this come January, or else you're just going to end up with T-shirt and a couple of banners and 10 people on a street corner. So it's going to take months. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah.
can I comment on
Please
something?
do, absolutely.
yeah,
Yep.
It's important. It is important that we recognize that we're the union, meaning the letter carriers that are on the workroom floor. Right? If we're not able to motivate them to come out, what good is the rally? Because it is by and large it for the letter carriers on the workroom floor and those that are most affected. So there's not just the leadership that should be out there, but the leaders are the ones that have to get the messaging. So one of the things is here, similar to that of, say, the grievance procedure. A lot of times it's often mocked that we have 15 different regions and 15 different ways of doing things. Right? We need to unify. We need to have, this is why I was saying about headquarters being involved, whether or not we hire professional organizers. There are obviously certain NBAs or certain leaders, regardless, that's better at certain things than others. But the reality of it is here is that we need to unify. Everyone needs to be singing the same message. Everyone needs to be moving in the same direction. And this is why it's exceedingly crucial that it is equal parts, that both national and local are coordinated. And this is why, when you have, I guess you say train the trainer, but training the organizers to organize, that you have a unified and a straightforward, competent, and comprehensive message.
Yeah. I know I was gonna call on Greg for a little bit on this too. I'll unmute you too. But because Greg can piggyback on it too. But in Boston, when the rally came up in Boston, Branch 34 had passed a resolution to have a rally to do this. And when we were gonna meet with the leadership, for Region 14, we had a plan. We had our permits, we had the PA system, we had the signs, we had the people, we had like we had everything in a row. We did it. We didn't get we did it for free. That's our volunteer. But I know Greg and Capone, amongst others here. We worked our butts off for 3 weeks to make this thing happen. Greg, you want to talk a little about that process because this is something we did learn, and hopefully anyway, Greg, I'll let you speak about our experience there.
Hey, before you
Go ahead.
jump in, for the folks that weren't in Boston, can you describe what happened, where it happened, and like the scenario? Because someone down here in Florida, we don't know what Boston looks like.
Boston formed in 1636. It was a great. All right. Anyway, no. So the situation. Yeah, I know. Haha. The situation in Boston really was that the rally. So we want to do a rally. I've been an activist for about 20 years prior to this, so I know good spots. The Boston Common is a prime spot, good location. It's called the Bandstand. If you're gonna visit Boston, you get off at Park Street Station. There's the Bandstand. Like it's a prime location. That's where every big rally ever took place in Boston. It's going to be this right by the State House. Beautiful area. Come visit us. So we knew that was a location that required us getting some permits. We had someone. I'll give him Reed, our friend here, Reed. He's the one that did all the work. Now that all this took time, and we did this months in advance because we knew this was coming. So Reed went through the process. It's a lengthy process, but we got through that. We needed a PA system. I know people. We got Paul, who's not here too. He's the one. We reached out. We got it's called the 2 miler, a great PA system. But it all had to come together, and we were doing it. And that's when I talk about with region, like some of the leadership and that on these, I think they just don't know how to do this. This isn't. They're good at contracts, and we need people good at contracts. I'm not bemoaning like all you do is, but like we do. But the organizing, it's the sword and the shield method I always talk about. This is my little thing. It's the shield is contracts, labor law, arbitration. You need that. The sword is the activists. Those are rallies. Those are protests. Those are making signs. Those are doing talking to Amazon Sunday. That's the organizing part. I think the shield we're working, but the sword doesn't really exist in our union. Like in the 70s and 80s, absolutely it did. That's why we had the best contracts in the 80s and those times, because we were fighters. We also could defend, but we don't have the sword. We went away from doing that to just doing legislation. And legislation, since we've been doing it, hasn't been a huge winner for us. So I think that's why the activist model, the going on the offense, doesn't really exist in our union. So, thank you, John. You got me all fired up. Greg, do you want to?
Well, thank you,
shout
Chris.
about Boston? Yeah, I know. So yeah,
but let's remember, Chris, and that rally started as a contract rally.
It did. Yep.
We were originally going to do that, and that I think one of the weeks we were planning it was when a memo came out in the Washington Post about maybe moving the post office to the Commerce Department. So it turned into a fight like hell rally to save the post office, but originally it was a contract rally, and we all met through like you guys at the podcast, and we don't have to go through all that, but we just formed a group and we just started going over speeches and how we're going to do it, who's going to do this. Reed's going to get the permit, Reed's going to do the chant, Derek's going to speak, Mike Pinto's going to speak, Ryan's going to hand out flyers. So we just became very organized, And we had some bumps along the way, but we worked them out democratically. But we have to, if we're going to do these local rallies, like someone said earlier, you have to start now. And at least like we were just talking before we came on the air, in Massachusetts, like all the presidents know each other. And even like Rhode Island, like I know some of the Rhode Island presidents and New Hampshire presidents, we all have to communicate, and that's how you get your members there, right? Your presidents have to take a lead, because you're not going to tell your members to go and the president's not going to show up, right? So it has. We have some time. We have to be organized, and I think James said it earlier. This is something. This just shouldn't be like a one-time thing. We need to start doing this as a regular thing every time there's a contract, and organize it maybe with other labor unions that, if it's UPS, if it's a Teamsters, or maybe Amazon unionized one day. But it's all about communicating. We just talking about the local rallies. Do I think there's going to be one in Idaho? Probably not. But like there can be one in Region 14. There can be a big one in this region or that region. So we have to get on it now. Like we're already talking about getting another Zoom together for the presidents in this region or in Massachusetts. So it's something that it takes a lot of work, and I think the presidents especially have to get their members to get motivated and really understand what we're fighting for.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think, like I said, that tradition, it did stop, and we got to start it up again. And I think Mike made a point too. Is that, and we just talked about this a bit early. Is that, like, the president? I don't think, like I said, Brian, I don't think knows how to organize these things. But Brian is more than welcome on the 23rd to come down to the working group and talk with us. That's fine. Like, like, this is, like I said, this is not about politics. I may not be voting for him, which I won't be, but like he has the power. If he wants to come to these working groups, hear us out, and go over the plan with us, and he wants to help plan these, welcome. Everybody is welcome. Every letter carrier who's listening, you're more than welcome, because it's going to take all of us. And what James said, we all got to be on we have the same message, same thing, because, organizing, there's a lot of people who are like, I really want to do this, but I don't know how to organize. I don't know, how do I get a bus? I know, like I said, there's some people here who could be like, this place, you can charter a bus. These are the prices. We can get it down here. I'm going to do a rally in Boise, Idaho. There's someone in Idaho right now who might want to, it goes, I'm going to do it. We'll show you how to do it. Make a checklist, get a PA system, get some speakers, get a politician who supports you. That's how you do it. And that's what the working group is. So if you want to help out, do reach out to us. We like I said, we're going to be meeting weekly, every probably couple of weeks to make this happen.
I also want.
So,
I don't.
Go right.
I don't want to keep jumping in, but I want to jump in. As Greg just said, the presidents need to unite.
Absolutely.
Because the rank and file members voted down a contract after being told we got something good for 700 days, and we voted it down, and then we got it shoved down our throats. So the rank and file members don't have much trust like they used to inside of the NALC. So to regain the trust is to unite as one collective union, because the enemy is ultimately USPS. They are the ones that is making us understaffed. They are the ones making our service standards erode day after day. So these branch presidents, if you're listening, or if you're a steward or some leader, even if you don't have a title and you're a leader in your office, start organizing, because we need to put the power and the faith of what a labor union is back into the rank and file, because we have elections coming up for the NALC, and we need to have our voices heard. And also with the contract, we need to make sure we have a good contract. So if you're listening and you're a branch president, please reach out, because we all see it across every office. Like, one or two members have completely distanced themselves from the NALC, but it's not too late to bring them back into our union, because they are part of our union. So I just want to leave it at that.
Hey, John, that's why, let me jump in real quick. That's why this discussion has to take place at the branch meetings. Is the branch endorsing the march we're having on February 16th? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, what resources, what plans, what things are you doing? What else does the branch want to do? Does the branch want to have one big rally in their city or in their geographic area? Does the branch want to have a meeting with the other local branches and come up with something? Do they want to do like I suggested? Let's get in front of every post office in America on the start of negotiations. Maybe they don't like that idea, whatever, but that discussion needs to take place so we can involve as many people as possible in moving this thing forward, because otherwise it's not going to be as effective.
Absolutely. James, were you going to say something? Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off.
No, we're good.
Okay, all right. So up next, Dave Groskopf. If you're here, let me find you in the chat so I can unmute you. Let's see, Dave.
One of the things is, Chris, what you were saying here. You guys often hear me talk about my faith, right? And when we go to church on Sundays, a lot of times my pastor used to say, one faith, one Lord, one baptism. We as a union should be one union, one craft, one mission. And that mission is to make sure that our letter carriers are back where we rightfully belong. And that is at the forefront of our industry, making sure that our people have a living wage and that they have a harmonious work environment and that they can get from hire date to retirement date. If those are in overarching umbrella, our mission, and trying to achieve those things, it's going to encompass everything that we want. The reality of it is that this is why it is important that we can't just be going through the numbers or going through the motions with these rallies. We have to design them to be a far-reaching than just the folks that are standing out there on the street. Those that are out there marching. It has to be far-reaching. It has to reach both the Postal Service management and it has to reach the general public, which consists of those arbitrators or potential arbitrators that would be potentially on here as well. We have to design it to be able to be heard. Otherwise, what is that old saying about a tree falling in the woods?
Yep.
That's what it will be if we don't do that. We don't want to be that tree falling in the woods and nobody knows it. So the fact of the matter is, I say it's a really good idea, but in any idea, we have to have the execution. And then the execution of it has to be effective. And so bringing that in, and I even will go even a step further, not only talking about just bringing our union together, because guess what happens almost each and every single time? It's not, I guess, associated as well as it should be, but the other unions, the APW mail handlers and the rural craft, what are they doing? A lot of times, one or the other is sitting back watching to see what the others are going to accomplish. Well, guess what? We got a seat for you in this car too. Get in, let's ride. And we bring them all together. So when the Postal Service management sees that we are on one accord and we get these other ones to come out here, even if their contract is not up for another year or two, you're going to want us to come support you. Come out and support us, because everything that we do directly or indirectly affects the others. And that's been evident by these contracts and the behavior of the other unions that's been going around. So in addition to that, we need to, like I said, be on one accord, meaning all the unions in the Postal Service, but moreover, we as the NLC, like I said, we need to have the attitude of one union, one craft, one mission. And we do that, we'll be able to accomplish what it is that we want to, particularly if we're consistent. And the more that they resist, we should persist. And that's what it really comes down to.
Awesome. Absolutely. And I could just piggyback on one point too. I think it was Reed once again, Raise the Stupid Out in 34. I think he showed us this fact sheet that if it goes to national arbitration, one factor they do have to consider, and James brought this up, an arbitrator has to consider what the public feels about it. That is one factor of it. So absolutely, if they do see it in the news, that they do judge that. That is one of the, I think, 4 factors. So absolutely on that too. And yes, we definitely, we did have a couple of people from the Mail Handlers Union come to our Boston rally too. we need everybody on board. All right, David Grosskopf, you're up next. Dave has been attending some of our meetings and has been a great addition to the working group. So, Dave, anything you have to say about February? I know you've been a big fan.
Yeah, just got out of my general membership meeting, so I haven't heard the entire conversation. So if I repeat something you've talked about, I apologize. But I want to, platform off what James was saying here. I've been watching the APWU election very closely, and I talked with you guys this Sunday night there on the pod, and AJ Jones and Smith out of New York Metro were the candidates, and Smith ended up winning. And his platform has been exactly what we talk about. He wants to get with the other unions. I think and to my knowledge, they install their officers next month, I believe, in November. So this might be a good opportunity, for the reform movement, all of us in the NALC to reach across that aisle, because clearly our national president has a hard time doing that, and see if we can get the support of the new president and get that backing from the APWU. That's 100%. We got to not only look within ourselves, the NALC, but we have to look outside that box, and that's going to include the other three unions. And I just saw Melissa post other unions as well, and we got to be out there on those other federal worker union lines as well. That's the type of solidarity that we need to build. And going back to when I put together the rally here in Western New York to stop that SNDC. 60, I've told this story many times, 60 days straight, I was in the Union Hall till at least 10 p.m. making phone calls. So exactly what you guys are saying, the sooner the better that we can get these things lined up. Because like John said, if it comes January and we're just starting to rev up the engines, we're gonna have a problem. So that needs to be the game plan. However you want to roll the thing out. I didn't really hear what direction you wanted to go in. One big rally, a bunch of little rallies. But the bottom line is, we need everybody pulling. And I'll be honest with you, and I talked a little bit about this the other day too. The reality of the situation is NALC politics are playing into this, because you have branch presidents that are afraid to, quote, do anything that, in my opinion, the establishment doesn't direct them or want them to do. And we need to be cognizant of that issue that's out there, and we need to extend that olive branch, to all of these people, whether whose ever side they whatever profess to be on. This is about saving our union. This isn't about saving an individual. This isn't about saving an executive council. We're fighting, not only for the Postal Service's lives, but the NALC's life in this instance, and that's why it's important that everything is set aside and that focus is as one, like many of you are talking.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly it. I think it. Capone, I know you wanted to say something as well.
Well, so no, I just had a question for Mike and Mr. Henry, and Chris is you as well. I'll put it as you speak for BFN for this one. If Brian comes forward and says to you that, hey, I like this idea. I mean, he's saying the talking points, right? Will you help him get this rally and make it as big as it possibly can be, knowing that if it's very successful, it will obviously help him towards a campaign of the big rallies? I guess that's for all of you.
Let me tell you here, anything that is for the advancement of the letter carriers, I'm all about. I don't care who is spearheading it, because the reality of it is that any leader worth the salt in their bread is going to do what's in the best interest of those that they're leading. And therein lies part of the problem, or a big part of the problem, as to why everyone is so disenchanted, and, as John has stated earlier, has lost so much faith in the union. Just think about how many decades we had before of just really solid leadership over the years, when we talk about going back to the Vince Brados and things of that nature. And carriers did well. And then you have the one instance here that made an indelible mark on these carriers and our craft. It demonstrates that it takes years to build up trust, and once you lose it, it takes so much more energy to rebuild it. So the reality of it is, myself is the only person I can speak for. I don't care if it's Brian, I don't care if it's Mike. If it is going to help the letter carriers, which is what I am solely about, that's what I'll be like, what can I do if it's about the letter carriers? Because the contract, our negotiated collective bargaining agreement or arbitrated collective bargaining agreement, whatever the case may be, our collective bargaining agreement is what is going to set the standards for what is acceptable, what's not acceptable in the workplace. It's going to set the standards for how much a letter carrier can spend to buy a home, to get a car, even basic sense, get some food. And you know why it's even that much more important for letter carriers to make a living wage? Because unlike we're talking about back in the day, traditional, where it was more common to have a two-income home, you have letter carriers that perhaps at least maybe 3/4 or more that are single parents, and they're taking care of everything on their own. They need to have a living wage that's commensurate with the work that we do. Just not no handout, but the hard work that we do. And as such, if Brian is rally, yes, this reminds me we were talking about even in our national politics or whatever, someone not want to do something because they think they'll get a political win. Well, then your heart is not in the right place. It should be for nothing and no one else other than the letter carriers. And by what way that food is served shouldn't matter to you. It should just matter that they're being served.
Absolutely. Mike?
I have nothing more to add. I agree 100% with my brother right there. I mean, we saw that with the March 23rd rallies, right? I mean, we all got out there and promoted those and participated, and it doesn't matter who was the organizer of it. If like James said, if it's in our interest as letter carriers, then that's what we're here for. So
Yeah, I mean, and my thing too is it's we need a strong contract. For those of us, I mean, I was a CCA for 3.5 years. I lost 3.5 years of pay raises, 3.5 years of my TSP, 3.5 years of good benefits. I didn't get that. There are I'm still a CCA office, so I still have people making about the same wage as a low wage worker right now.
That's Amazon. They're hiring $23 an hour to start.
Right? Yeah, I mean, did everyone get that mailing? We had to do that mailing. And it's like, join Amazon now for $23 an hour. I have a CCA who's been here for almost 2 years, who's only going to be making what, $21.80, I think.
Think about that CCA. How many CCAs across the country are delivering that to every address all day, looking at $23 an hour?
A non-union company. That is when I tried to organize a union at FedEx Ground 12 years ago. This is when Jimmy Hoffa Jr. was running the place into the ground. His dad was a good organizer, bad friends, but good organizer. His son was a joke. But they would say that, the starting wage at we have a higher starting wage than union UPS. That was a hard thing to beat. I know we'd love to unionize Amazon, but if their union buses are going to come in and say, well, who gives you a higher wage to start? When the union difference does not add up to more wages, I know now you could say we have better benefits, we have a retirement plan, all true, but people are going to look at the hourly wage. And that's why we need a strong union to do it. And look, if Renfro wants to, has a come to Jesus moment and wants to work with us, I'd work with the devil himself if the city letter carrier started a stronger contract. That's fine. I don't care. I'm glad you figured it out at some point, I know you're fighting like hell, so prove it, show up. So, Brian Renfro, if you're listening, come on. Yeah, you're more than welcome to the February working group anytime. So
I did just want to hit on something you mentioned, Chris, about, we get benefits and stuff like that. That always drives me crazy, because why shouldn't we have both? You hear all the people, like the old people, you see, you work for the post office, that's a great job. Remember when I started, it was a great job. You still hear it from people, and then you have to, if you actually get into it, It's like, no, it's not what it used to be. It's not what you think it was,
Hey,
even in terms of
I'll jump
benefits.
in real quick.
Go back to that shit.
So I'm step D, and our health insurance is going up. So I'm probably gonna have to go from the high option down to the consumer price one because I don't go to the doctors all the time. And when I was with the carpenters union, right, like President Obama came out and tried to do a tax on the healthcare, and it was like the Cadillac tax of the healthcares. And it's like we're a union. How are members in 2025 not have health insurance? And when I was organizing up in Boston, up in Massachusetts, down Falmouth, Massachusetts, a grocery store, the non-union, it's on one hand you have no contract, and on the other hand you have the union contract, and you have to go up to a non-union worker and go, "Yo, is this contract worth risking your career for?" And right now, people are like, "Oh, what does that have to do with it?" But like right now, our union contract, we need to go to Amazon workers and be like, "Yo, you guys got to unionize." Because we're getting compared right now to Amazon workers. We're not even getting compared to UPS workers anymore. And the lower the standards get, the more likely we're going to end up like the postal workers in Canada that literally just lost their door-to-door delivery. It's going to be CBUs. And people are like, "Oh, we got the parcel business." But they don't even have the parcel business because it's all gig economy workers up there. You have like UPS has here. What do they have? The UPS Flex, Amazon Flex. They have all these little gig economies already down here, and they're going to pick up the parcels. And what's the NALC city carrier going to be left with? You're going to get the table one folks. I'm just going to hang around till they force me out because I can't retire now because the cost of living is too much. And then all of us down here in table two are going to be like, okay, I guess I'll get a second or third job. So, yeah, we need to fight. We need to fight for a fair contract and have a united voice.
Awesome. Speaking of a contract campaign, like I said, so what we're doing on February is not the goal isn't the rally. The goal is to get a good contract. So after February, there needs to be a plan, right? We talked about a broader plan. Derek, if I hit the unmute button there for you. Derek has been the coordinating committee of Build the Founding NALC did vote for Derek to be the chairman of this group, as if there's another working group, because obviously the rally is going to take a lot of work, but we need to connect it to a contract campaign. And Derek, if you want to talk a little bit about the contract campaign you're working on, and what are some of the goals and what are the aspirations for this?
Yeah, I mean, the goal of this is for us to operate, frankly, like most other unions do. It's not a crazy thing for us to have a ladder of escalation leading up to a contract expiring. Uh, the blueprint for that is you begin with contract surveys that reach every worker in a bargaining unit. So not some like random survey of the membership last minute, to try and get a good sample. No, you're a union. You reach out to every worker in your unit to demonstrate that you have connections to them and that you're able to, hear their voice, and that gives legitimacy to what you are asking for. Then doing things like button days in order to show within the shop workers are able to recognize what's going on, all that in preparation for a larger contract rally. Now, usually if you have something like the right to strike, this is all done in preparation for Jane McAlevey calls this the supermajority strike. So you walk out with 90% of the workers able to do it. I mean, we can't do that for a variety of reasons, mostly that we're not organized. We don't teach our stewards how to organize. And this is a model that has been largely adopted throughout the rest of the labor movement. So I think it's something that we need to do to catch up to the times. And that can come from leadership, but right now our leadership is not going to do that. So we've got to do it ourselves.
Awesome. Absolutely. Yeah. So, like I said, if anyone wants to reach out and work with Derek on that too, you can email me. It's NALCChris, one word, @gmail. I can direct you to Derek. If you only want to work on just the rally itself, same email. I'll direct you to that. So, like I said, I got a good group of people. with me. And speaking of a good group of people working with me, I've had the pleasure of working with C. Moline out of Seattle, who's been doing some great work, great ideas, and a hell of an organizer. So, C, if you want to talk a little bit more about the working groups, some other great things you've been working on in Seattle.
Yeah, sure. Seamoline, NALC Branch 79 Seattle. Um, I guess I really want to. I know there's kind of been some discussion about, in Washington, D.C., in your local. I want to encourage everybody to actually put together something at their local. Um, the reality is, fun fact, in Seattle, I'm not going to be able to drive to DC. And the cost of a flight to DC is a little bit more than I can afford right now, given that I don't get paid very much because I'm a letter carrier. Um, at like step D. So it's also important because, we want to build support across the country. One of the best aspects of the Fight Like Hell stuff in March was the fact that it was nationwide. Now, somebody said before, like, I don't know about Idaho. Idaho had a rally. Idaho did have a rally. Every state had a rally. That was the biggest benefit of that movement was that we were able to, make sure that every state had at least one going. Some states had like three or four, right? We had one in Seattle. I think we had one on the east side of the state. We had one in Bellingham. We had one in Olympia. And I think even one in Tacoma. Like we had them all over the place. And I want to say also we're all saying the right thing, which is we need to unify all the levels of this union, national, state, region, branch around, you know, having these rallies we voted for at the national convention. I just want to also say that, like, they wouldn't be really talking about this if we didn't bring this up at the national convention last time, you know. But when we're able to, unify across these levels, we were able to do a lot more. Like, National sent out our press release for Seattle. I'll tell you, I had written a ton of press releases before, and I don't always get the response that I need. But when National sent it from National's email, they showed up. And they showed up because it seemed more important than when we were just complaining, at our rally by ourselves, right? Also, another thing is right now, right, we're talking, oh, we need to build for February. Basically, now we needed to be building earlier than this, right? But now's an okay time to start. If you want to have this solidarity with the other unions in your area, you kind of needed to be out there already. you know, Connecting with the APWU, with the mail handlers, um, the federal workers. Like, do you know your local federal workers? Like, that's really important. We got some really great connections here with our EPA workers. Um, and that didn't come easy, right? But at our Fight Like Hell rally, we were able to have one of them speak about how that was affecting them then. And guess what? If we have another rally, we're going to have her come back again because do you know their union's basically done? The AFGE is basically out, right? That's where they want us to go. Trump is not really going to stop until we get there, I think, in my opinion, unless we push him back. So I just want to say, like, we learn from these other unions when we support them and they come out and support us back, right? Are you involved in your local AFL CIO? I know not every branch is affiliated with their local AFL CIO. Now's the time. Now's the time to get affiliated. Start paying those dues, right? Get involved in such a way that they are willing to come back out for you, right? Solidarity goes both ways, and we keep asking for the customers to come support us. The people who are going to actually be there and support us for real is going to be the labor movement, but only if we participate in it. In that same place, when we're talking about that training, oh, maybe we should have National come and train us on how to do things. I'm sure National's really good at putting together rallies. That's why, everything's always such a fucking last minute shebang. I want to say, the resources are out there. Look out for your local troublemaker school. Look out for the Organizing Institute of the AFL-CIO, which travels around the country. And look out for any, you can go onto Labor Notes and sign up for their classes that they do online. You can do that at any time. There's so many of them. They do them all the time. Read the book, Secrets of a Successful Organizer. You heard Derek say the word like campaign ladder or contract ladder. That comes from that. Like, these things are not new. We are behind. We are losing when we decide not to use the tools that everybody else is using. I hate to like always just like yell about how much more behind we are than everybody else, but we really are falling behind when we continue to put, the system that works and like let that be what propels us forward is just the system, right? I also want to say like we need to basically, by the time these rallies happen, solidify around national demands. Like, I'm not just saying like, oh, the BFN demands or whatever. Like, our union should have demands that our workers and our carriers know about, right? Like, it's important because when we go out there, we want to tell them we're fighting for these things, and nationals out there fighting for these things. Show us some priorities based on those surveys, even, right? But like, if we can't show that to the carriers, they're going to be less interested in coming out to just another rah rah rally, right? We're talking about actually showing up to, get the support, rebuild that support with the public that we had earlier this year, right? We want to show that we're still struggling. That did not change. We are still struggling. Everyone forgot about that because we weren't in the news, but we are still struggling, right? And we need to reactivate and educate our carriers. Otherwise, we're not going to build the strength we need to like win this contract. Sorry, I've been writing so many notes about what's going on, but it's hard for me to like get to not stay calm about this, but I really do want to say like organize for the 22nd. Organize your branch, put it together, get the people out there. And that contract ladder, right? I call it like a campaign mountain, right? You're not just building towards the end of that contract, campaign. You're building to this rally, right? You're building to every next step is building on the last one. And if you don't build on your last step, fun fact, you're going to start at the bottom again. So start now talking to your coworkers about these things. Put together that sticker campaign, that button campaign, that t-shirt day. Put it together now. Get those flyers out. Start talking to your carriers about what they need to survive these next 3 years, right? I mean, if we don't do this, we're going to find ourselves in the same positions where our carriers are homeless, hungry, cold, things have changed. The volume is down in a lot of places. Life is harder because there's less overtime to go around. Tariffs are up, cost of groceries are up. It's all bad. We're heading straight into a recession. When that recession hits fully, we're going to be fully staffed because we're going to be hiring people until we're fully staffed, hopefully. It's going to be bad. I'm sorry, but if we keep fighting the way we keep fighting, we're going to keep losing the way we lose. So change that. Change that. Fight for something new. Fight for something real. I don't know. Sorry. Chris, is that what you wanted to hear? I don't know.
You keep going. That's I like it. I like the passion. We need that energy. Everything too. Everything you say, we do need it. We got a lot of work to do. Please, in the name of God, Labor Notes always does online trainings. I cannot emphasize. If you're new to activism, labornotes.com or .org, whatever, you can Google it. They do the best things, and Seamalene can't be more right about it. If you want to start off, you want to know, and you're new to it, that's it. And also the book, it's her Bible, it's my Bible. Secrets to that book. I can't pronounce it. Secrets
of a Successful Organizer.
Go get on Labor Notes.
You
Read the
can
book. You'll love it. It's
you
good
can
stuff.
read the book. There's also a trainer's guide. You can use that trainer's guide with your coworkers. If you have meetings, like steward council meetings, you can split up. It has literal lessons, and you can split up those lessons to be one for each steward council meeting. Once you are able to understand how to have an organizing conversation, how to map your workplace, how to, design a campaign, you're going to be able to win things. You're not just going to be guessing as to how to get things done anymore. And it's not until our union learns these skills, right, that we're going to see that change.
Absolutely. All right. Very quickly, we're going to go wrap up because we're approaching the hour and a half, and that's about it. Vigilio, we'll call on you just one, and then we'll go straight to wrapping up, and then I will shamelessly plug again the February working group, which meets on the 23rd of this month. So go ahead, Vigilio.
Oh, good evening, everybody. My name is Virgilio Goze, NALC branch of 9 Seattle, just like Stephen. C has already said much of what I was going to point out, but I want to reemphasize again to start making those connections to your community, your local labor unions, to your local AFL-CIO labor councils. It's a great way to just like already have an audience that is receptive to what you're doing, right? Plus, you get to know people who will actually show up to your events, like this rally, for example. And, this is how we found out, like, the Federal Unionist Network folks. I went to one of their rallies in front of the federal building here. I got in their Slack, and, I keep in contact with these EPA workers that C was talking about. So, it's not that hard. Showing up is 90% of the work. It's kind of like showing up in the Postal Service. Just show up, just say that you're a letter carrier, you're in the union, and you want to be part of the labor council, or at least like have your branch like sponsored to be like a dues paying member. And also, I plugged it in the chat. Like the APWU is doing this proclamation campaign, trying to get their local city councils and state governments to pass a proclamation on the 250th anniversary of the Postal Service to push back on the attempts on privatization. And, that's a small thing you can do to get your feet wet and, organizing just to get your name out there, the community, right? So it's in the APW website, the 250th anniversary of the Postal Service. Thanks.
All right, awesome. So we're just wrapping up on time. If people want to stick around after the recording, that's fine. We can keep the conversation going, but just for the purpose of a podcast, we're just going to talk about this. So, I'll go to Mike and then James. James, you're unmuted. James, you just want to just give a quick wrap up, and then we'll kick it over to Mike.
Yeah, I think that this is very educational and enlightening for some, and then it also shows what we're supposed to be about. What is the root word of the union? Is basically unity, is what it amounts to. And when we are speaking about being on one accord and working for each and every one of us, meaning the bottom or the lowest or newest, whatever analogy you want to use, letter carrier is equally as important as the letter carrier that's there 30 years or even 41 years and 11 months. It does not matter. These rallies is a component to the end zone with regards to making sure that we have a living wage, like I said, and that we have a harmonious working environment, and that we have the means to get from hire date to retirement date. That is something that is just all too often taken for granted. We need to wrap our arms around one another. That means that the one day CCA that comes in on the workroom floor, let them know that we got your back like vertebrae, and your participation is going to make all the world difference. You don't have to depend on those that's been around here for 20, 10, 15, 20 years. You start day one, because someday the job you say may be your own. You can be working and helping those and paving the way and showing how things need to be done. And this becomes institutional knowledge, so to speak, because if we have these consistent rallies every time, because as long as the postal service around and letter carriers, the likelihood of it is we're going to have contracts, and we have got to continue to sharpen our weapons. Steel sharpen steel. That's what transpired here this evening. Steel sharpening steel. All of us breaking our thoughts and our ideas off of one another with the end game in sight. That's the whole idea. Where I ain't trying to get preachy. The Bible says, where there is no vision, the people perish. That's what the Bible tells us. And so this is about developing the vision so our people won't perish. Being able to say, hey, this is not just what we need to do, but how we get to where we want to get to. One means to that method, or one method to that end, is doing these rallies, both locally and nationally, statewide, and like I said, and making sure that we are effective. I thank you for the invitation to be able to come on and address you and be able to, give my brief ideas and thoughts on it. Again, I think you gentlemen, the new gen is doing a fine job, and those that are participating on here is proof positive about activism isn't dead. And this is why, as why leaders have to lead. You lead from the front. You're on here, then you inspire others to come on here. And then that's how it goes ahead, and the word continues to spread. Because if you didn't have anybody on here, if it was just me and John talking, again, we that tree falling in the woods. We may be saying all the right things, but it's not going to be effective whatsoever. One union, one craft, one mission. Be blessed.
All right, awesome. Thank you very much for that, James. Mike, if I'll unmute you.
Yes, sir. All right, you guys. So we have a big hurdle in front of us. We have a big challenge in front of us. And that's simply, how do we get a good contract now when we couldn't accomplish that in 2023? I think that everyone would agree we had more leverage. We were in a better position in 2023 than we're going to be in 2026. In order to be successful and not get the same result, we are going to have to change the dynamic. We're going to have to get the public on our side, and we're going to have to force the Postal Service to actually negotiate, and we're going to have to force our union to fight for the things that we want and we need out of a new contract. And so you got the blueprint here tonight. You've heard from all the speakers. Let's go out and make this happen. Everyone who's listening to this right now, everyone who's going to listen to this later on, let's make this happen. Let's make this march on February the 16th as successful as it possibly can. Let's organize within our branches. Let's organize within our communities and within our geographic areas to actually, to mobilize and get our union together, all of our union and all of our members together with our friends and allies in the community and the labor movement, all on board that the letter carriers deserve a good contract. The strong postal service, the center of that is a letter carrier in every community in America. Let's fight to keep that and have that for the American people, and let's fight for a future for us. Because if we get another bad contract, that's it's getting harder and harder to overcome these things. And so let's put it all on the line, and let's fight like we never have before. Appreciate everyone taking the time tonight, and let's do it.
All right, awesome. And once again, if you want to continue working on this, the February Rally Working Group, we are meeting Thursday, October 23rd at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Drop me a line at NALCChris, one word, @gmail.com. I'll hook you up how to get there on the Zoom, but we meet about every 2 weeks or as need be. So, and as Moline said earlier, this should have been done yesterday. We got a lot of time to catch up on. December's not going to count because we're busy working. So we don't have that much time. January is just putting the final touches on it. But we got to organize the buses, the permits, the PAs, all that fun stuff. So if you want to dedicate the next couple of weeks to fighting and getting the best possible contract, do reach out to us and I'll hook you up there. Once again, thank you, James and Mike, my co-host Capone and John Murphy. as well. So that will be it. So keep up the fight, keep up the struggle, and we will see you all next time.
Thank you, everybody.